Let me share with you a tool that I'll be using, God willing, in the year 2022 in our Wisdom Project, our focus on the book of Proverbs. This is a Proverbs journal. It's just the book of Proverbs from the Bible. It's laid out in a very nice print size and eye-pleasing format with an entire blank page on the opposite side. 30 very light lines for you to make your notes in. And it's a thick enough paper that a ballpoint pen won't bleed through, even though you may want to use a pencil as well. If you're like me, you may make mistakes here and there. Well, nice, isn't it? You even have some wideness in the margins, not just an entire blank page. And you get 10 bonus blank pages in the back as well. A nice addition. Well, what will you do with all of that white paper, blank pages? Let me share with you just a few examples. Obviously, as you read in this particular rendering, the English Standard Version, the ESV of Proverbs, you may want to compare it with other translations. I would encourage you to take a look at the Contemporary English Version or the Common English Bible and many, many others. You may want to write a reference to one that you find particularly striking that compares or contrasts with what you're reading here, or even just write that particular scripture out from another translation there on the blank page. As you think about Scripture and how it's being rendered, you may think about other scriptures. Oh, I remember reading a proverb earlier in the book of Proverbs about this same subject. Well, go find that and write the reference here, or write out the entirety of that proverb. You'll be able to trace some of the themes in the book of Proverbs that way. As you engage Scripture, I'm sure you're like me, questions bubble up over and over in your head. Sometimes you can remember them. Sometimes you don't have time to process them at the moment. And if you don't write them down, well, you forgot the question. That's what a blank page is for. Write those questions you have down. As you do your study in Proverbs, no doubt you'll come across notes that you can make of maybe background information or the way culture operated in that time, etc., that are very helpful to elucidate your mind as to what's being said in a particular wisdom statement, a proverb. As you make those notes, you may even think of quotes that have come to mind from maybe this is what a grandparent used to say, or your mom used to always tell you, or maybe you remember reading this quote from Churchill or Lincoln or whoever. It matters not the source so much as write those quotes down. You might say that you're augmenting your wisdom when you do so. I'll be preaching, God willing, in 2022 from the book of Proverbs on a regular basis, and you may want to take notes from sermons there. Current events. As you encounter things in the news, the happenings of the day, why not make note of them here in your Proverbs journal? Let me give you an example of that. A recurring theme in the book of Proverbs is to use your money wisely and also not to be greedy. Well, just a couple of days ago, I ran across an amazing article in The Atlantic on how that gambling is just skyrocketing in our society today. Well, I'm going to make note of that particular article in The Atlantic here on this blank page so I can reference it again in the future when I have need for it, when we're talking about money, gambling, etc. Memories. As you read Scripture, particularly as you read Proverbs, people's faces may come to mind. Oh, I remember so-and-so. This proverb makes me think of them. It's like they were living that proverb so well. Write down their name. Write down a brief sketch of that memory. A simple paragraph may do wonders for you later, years down the road. People bless us in so many ways, and Scripture can prompt us to how we see Scripture lived. Write those memories down. Prayer. You may keep a prayer journal already. If you're not already in that habit, this is a great way to begin. Scripture is right there in front of you, and it may cause you to pause and pray about something. Write out that prayer. I suspect you'll find in your experience the same thing I've found. When I write out my prayers, it helps me know how to pray. As you're talking about praying, there may be things that come up that you declare, that you profess. Yes, I strongly believe this. Or, oh, that shines a light on something that I believe is an important value. Well, make note of that in your journal here. Or it may be something that's very private, something you need to confess to the Lord. I found that sometimes when I write just only for myself, like in a journal like this, or whether digitally that I keep in a separate file, it helps me be more open to the Lord. I just get it out of my system and up to the Lord as I should. Legacy writing. You may not be writing this as something private for yourself or something that you may not mind others saying. You may want to deliberately make all the remarks you make in this Proverbs journal something that you could pass on to like a granddaughter or a grandson. Think about what you might be able to do with such writing. One more example, symbols. You can come up with your own set, but imagine what might happen. You're reading along in Proverbs and something you read, you're totally mystified by. I can't begin to imagine what that must mean. Well, put a question mark and an exclamation point right there beside it in your notes section. Or maybe it's become one of your favorites. Oh, wow, this is one of my new favorite scriptures in all the Bible. Well, put a star beside it. You can imagine your own symbols for all kinds of things that you encounter, but symbols often help us not only process things in our mind, like being startled, I didn't know that was in there, but also our emotions as well. So I would encourage you to connect your mind and your heart in the way that you do a little bit of art with symbols in your journal. Those are just a dozen ways. You could easily come up with a dozen more of how to use that blank page in this little Proverbs journal. Cheap, about $8 on Amazon, available with a black cover or a more decorative cover. Get you one. Make good use of it. It'll help your reading to do some writing. Grace and peace be with us all.